Hello, I'm Benedictine at Chessable, Adult Chess Improver, and welcome to this video on common chess patterns, which is a bit of a walkthrough to give you a bit of a flavour of what to expect with the course. It is a tactical course, but with a bit of a difference. In this course, what you will find is two distinct chapters, right? You'll get the isolated chapter and the test sections. Now, in the isolated chapters, which features, the patterns like knight patterns, double attack patterns, pins, double check, skewers, so on and so forth, and mate patterns as well, major mating patterns, you get just the essential elements of the tactic. So you get everything else I've tried to take away, so you can just focus on the pattern. So let me show you an example from the knight pattern section. So let's just go with this one. So as you can see, everything else has been taken off the board and you just get the essential pattern, which here is knight h5 check, winning the queen due to the pin. So this is the essential pattern, nothing else is on the board. And then as you work through each chapter, you get slightly more complex positions. Let's look at this one. So again, everything else is being taken off the board, just the essential pattern remains, which is, as you can see here, hopefully knight f4. And it's the same idea, right? It's a knight fork, but with a pin. This time it's a rook rather than a queen, but it's essentially the same idea in a different context. So as you work through it, the tension is it gets slightly more complicated. Like here is this, you can see there's slightly more pieces on the board, but still, hopefully the essential pattern remains, right? And there's two patterns here really jumping out in this position. There is the, let's give you a second to have a look. So yeah, so there's two patterns that jump out to me personally. Yeah, there's the hook mate where you go rook takes, king moves into h2, and then the rook comes across to h1, and mating if it wasn't for the fact that the king could take the knight. Right. So if this knight was secured, let's just get rid of the rook, with a pawn on h4, then that would be pattern to make. So that's the mating pattern which will occur later on in the other chapters. But here, the correct move is knight 2, which takes advantage of this pin, again in a slightly different context. So the idea is that you train this section first over and over again, and you do the reviews, and then once you're secured in this chapter, right, then you can do the test sections. So, and it's important to do the reviews wherever possible, because let's face it, Chessable uses the spaced repetition algorithm, right? So if you're not doing the reviews, then you're not really taking advantage of that. And it is easy to get swamped with reviews, and there is always a balance between taking on new material and doing the reviews, but essentially you want to be doing the reviews, right, and taking advantage of the system, right? So once you've done the knight patterns, you've drilled them in, and you're looking to try and get them as quickly as possible within 10 seconds, right? Because you're wanting to know the pattern really cold. And then once you've done that, you're happy with that, and then move on to the test section. So the test section looks like this. There we go. And click on this one. So have a look at this one. Let's move the cursor out of the way. So as you can see, the test sections are normal chess positions taken from games, and hopefully what you're wanting to do after you've studied the isolated chapter is to get the pattern in your head, and then the pattern sort of jumps out straight away, and hopefully you see now very tired, sorry, knight h5 forking the king and the queen, which is the first, I think it's the first position I showed you, yeah. But here everything else is on the board, right? But in a real game, like, you could miss this easily, right? You could, looks like black's offered a trade of queens, and if you was like wanting to say, oh, I want to keep my queens on, you drop the queen back to e3 or something and refuse a queen trade, and then you've missed this pattern. But the idea is that you overtrain in the isolated sections, well, overtrain, but you at least train that you know those patterns really cold, so you just play that move, yeah. which the computer's played from because I've just been talking for too long. But yeah, that's the idea with the test sections anyway. So that's essentially the course, and let's make him do it again. So the idea is then, you do that. So that is the course really in a nutshell, with all of these different chapters. So the recommended method of study, as you probably gathered, is make sure you're drilling the right chapter, make sure you're doing the isolated positions, and then do the test section. Right, and you can do them in any order. You don't have to do them in this order. You can choose, like, the knight. There's 6 to 8 positions in the knight chapter. That's quite a lot. It's the longest in any of the chapters. Did that on purpose because knights are the trickiest piece. Placing them first sometimes puts beginners off in this course, but I think it's worth sticking with. I think it's worth. It is aimed at intermediate players, this course, and all my courses are generally aimed at the average intermediate player, the club player type of thing. The probably 1200 to 800 sort of player. But if you're a beginner, you can still stick it if you're willing to put the work in. And essentially, it's what what you put in is what you get out anyway. But I think these patterns can work well for beginners, post-beginners, and experts who just want to drill patterns a little bit more. But essentially, it's for the average club player, really. So this is the course generally. You can see there's quite a lot. Did I mention there's, I think, 780 positions? I don't know. If I did, I'm sorry. So this is the course. If you want to, you can go and download for free the basic chess patterns course, which features 50 positions from the Common Chess Patterns course. Okay, so thanks for listening, and if you've got any questions, you can post me a question on Chessable itself, and I'll respond if I've got the time. I always respond when I can, or on the video itself. So thanks for listening.